As I mentioned in my previous video on FreeBSD 11, I was for kind of AMD 64 platform. Take a look at the sparc64. So I got my SunBlade 1000 ready to go here. I'm in the serial console. We got the two 750 megahertz UltraSpark 3 processors and 2.5 gigs of memory. Let's see if this works. This is first go in booting FreeBSD sparc64. So this machine was previously running Solaris 8, and part of the reason I'm doing this is basically just to wipe the disk. Want to do a clean install of Solaris 8, and then do a flash archive of that to do put Solaris 10 on there, and then do Solaris 8 in a zone, so a Solaris 8 branded zone. So hopefully this works. The drives I have in here are a pair of 300 gigabyte fiber channel drives. So SunBlade 1000 and 2000 were strange. They use fiber channel disks instead of SCSI for the fixed disk. A little bit of an odd choice from Sun. I mean, this is like a big, beefy machine here. So they use fiber channel drives, which thankfully are pretty cheap these days, right? So you get a 300 gig fiber channel drive for $15. So not a bad deal. SCSI would be more versatile. And then hopefully I plan to pull the drives out of this altogether and boot off of fiber channel fiber with a storage server exporting the fiber resources. So boot messages are going by a little bit quickly. There's our fiber channel adapter and our USB 1. So this isn't a good sign if we're getting positioning errors. Hopefully the drive's not dying, which is unlikely. So I'm going to pause this here and see if it can work itself out. This may take a while if it's got to fail multiple times. So I'm going to pause the video and I'll be back in a few minutes. Okay, so it took a few minutes, but it obviously got through its little bit of error-ness. Not necessarily a good sign for later as we proceed. But we'll call ourselves an X-term here for the console type. Since we're sort of in an X-term, we're in a KDE console. And looks a little off, but let's keep going. And it's probably because I have things blown up a little bit here, and so it's not drawing everything. We'll do the default key map. If it looks slow, that's because we're at 9600 baud here. And what are we going to do? We're not going to install any additional components to hopefully not stress things too much. And interesting to note here, there's no ZFS root option here. May be able to do it manually, but we'll just do auto UFS. And we'll do DA0. Give it the entire disk. And we'll use a Sun partition table because we kind of have to. And that's fine. Whole big root. This might be a good opportunity. We can put the second disk as a ZFS pool, right? So put ZFS on the second disk. So this may take a moment or two as well. If it's got to make the file system, we got to make UFS. Oh, that was pretty quick. So this is going a bit more quickly than I had imagined it would, being that this is coming up on a 20-year-old system. What's really amazing, and let's switch off of here for a second. Yeah, but never mind about that. I was going to see if the Spark 10 was still up and doing, but something may have happened there. So as I said earlier, plan is, we're going to try out FreeBSD here. Hopefully we can get it up and running. I hope my DVD drive in here is not going bad, although coincidentally I just got on eBay, I just got a similar drive, so a Sun SCSI DVD drive, which I'd planned to put in the SGI-02 since that has the typical failure seen in O2s. And you can get the Sun SCSI drives pretty cheap. DVD CD drives. So, and they also have the selectable block size. So hopefully that would be available. But if my drive's failing here, maybe I can pull this one for the O2, because the O2 is less critical. I just want to play around with having an actual CD drive there. Okay, so the installation looks just about like on AMD. So this is pretty cool. So it did pick up the multiple interfaces I have on here. So this machine I got a quad gigabit card. The 10100 is what's built in. I also have the Sun PCI 2 coprocessor, right, for running Windows and such. But obviously I don't think that's going to work with FreeBSD. Yeah, I want V4. And no, I don't want DHCP. And my router. I'll set up DNS. And that should do it. No, I think clock is local time. But who knows? Oh, 9600 baud is so slow. Now I could, in fact, in the open boot prom configuration, set my serial port speed up a bit so I could go actually pretty high. But I'd rather not do that because 9600 is kind of the default. You have a bunch of machines with serial ports, you just want to keep everything at 9600 8N1 as much as possible. And it looks like the clock is set correctly. And I don't want any of these hardening features. Put them in the wheel group, and TCSH, of course, because it's BSD. So let's see if we can finish here. See if we can reboot. And hopefully this installation works. Although I am a little concerned about the disk. It may have just been, hey, it's around 2000 Sun DVD ROM drive. It doesn't like burned disks. Although that's how I got Solaris on there. It was it's from the same stack of verbatim DVD-Rs. Which is one of the cool things is that I don't know if it's cool, but it's kind of sad in a way, but exciting in another way. Is that CDs and DVDs, optical discs, are being phased out, being replaced with flash storage, right? So your USB stick, SD card, etc. Much the same way that optical discs kind of eliminated the need for, say, floppies. So it's interesting to see things progress. I'm gonna interrupt the boot there because this looks like it's pulling off the CD. So I don't want to do that. And we get to go sit through a reset, which is actually remarkably slow on this machine. Although the Spark 10, when I with the diagnostic and the factory test set to true, going through a quarter gig of memory on there with the initialization and test, pretty slow. So yeah, so now we're pulling up the fiber channel disk here, and it's got the bootstrap loader. It's got the kernel, and we are booting. So I'm excited. I don't know if this comes across as exciting as I think it is. But like I said, this is really just an exercise to see, hey, does it work? Wipe the disk, put Solaris 10 on there, and then do some cool stuff with Solaris 10. One of the reasons is I really just need a way to get backups because I'm starting to accumulate more and more data, and some critical stuff needs to go on a separate machine backup. And if I do a stripe of these two fiber channel drives, I'll be able to get that other off machine. And this is weird. We're getting the same SCSI error. Bizarre. Because it shouldn't even be reading from the CD at this point. It should be reading from the drive. Fascinating. Fascinating. I don't recall if I had this problem. I did play around with NetBSD on here some time ago, but I think I was using my SCSI to SD as the storage device. But bizarre. Maybe I should have pulled the CD out of there. Who knows? Well, typically you wouldn't need to do that on a Sun type machine. It would boot from the correct device and shouldn't be trying to read from the CD, which it is doing based on the activity light. Let me scroll up here a little bit, if I can scroll. Yep. So we've got our memory and our processors there. Where's it trying to root from? Yep, that is correct. DA0A. So maybe this is just a song and dance that has to go through as part of the boot process? I don't know. So this is a sparc64 is what they call a tier 2 port for FreeBSD. And all the BSDs kind of do this to an extent where they have the kind of primary stuff, which at this point is, for FreeBSD, I think is going to be the x86, x64, and ARM. Could be wrong. And then the tier 2 stuff is less commonly used things, so like PowerPC for the Mac stuff, Spark, and then tier 3 is even less commonly used stuff. And that's kind of the level of what's supported at the different levels. OpenBSD does the same thing. For a while, VAX, you could get, up until quite recently, OpenBSD was available for VAX, and you could get images for it, but not all the packages were there, etc. Now, OpenBSD no longer ships for VAX, which is sad, but in all honesty, I don't know how many people still have VAXs around. I've got one, but if you do have a VAX, what are you doing with OpenBSD on it? You should have OpenVMS or Ultrix. I guess we want to do modern stuff. So bizarre that it needed to go through that whole ridiculous song and dance with the CD errors. So, this has been quite a process here. Let's see, maybe we'll be able to SSH in. Take out my offending key here. And we can log in. So networking's working. We've got our root file system there. We've used up about 500 megs. Let's switch over to root. We'll do this over here on console. Let's get ports. And over here, see if we can get, nope. Huh. That's interesting. It's very, very interesting. So I wonder if they don't have packages up yet. Let's take a look at this. Yep. Yeah, so no packages. Interesting. So I guess we will have to do I'll have to do this from ports. So while we're over here on the other machine, the VM I set up in the last video, let's build a benchmark. I don't know, this brings up another question is, please suggest benchmarks to me. I'd like to do some comparisons across my systems. And for me, benchmarking in a professional capacity involves looking at a specific workload, right? So we're doing an R task, right? Some machine learning task, we'll benchmark that. A database task, benchmark that. Some graphing task, benchmark that. Don't do kind of these stock benchmarks. But yeah, please suggest benchmarks. We'll put Drystone in here. That's chugging along. Let's take a look at top. So hopefully that completes in a while. It's got to do its hashing. We'll give it 3 times. 10,000. 100,000. How many times do we need to run dry stone? Let's try 5 million. 50 million. So we are 32 million dry stones per second. Port snap is still chugging along over there. Let's see about some other benchmarks. Get Unix bench, which I think is the old byte Unix benchmark. Let that run while this hopefully completes soon. Didn't realize this might take a few minutes, right, to do this hashing. I don't know how big the ports are, but they shouldn't be that large. Oh, well, 74 megabytes. So how long does it take to do hashing of 74 megabytes? Maybe I don't know how they're verifying the integrity. Obviously using cut. Yep, I guess it's just looking at the index. Okay, so it's moving data. So I honestly haven't looked at port snap while we're waiting here. So it is a shell script. Not that large. Fascinating. So we're benchmarking over here on. This is the VM I set up in the last video. Whew. I was hoping this would be a little bit faster. It certainly doesn't take this long on a modern system. But again, this machine is, as I said, getting close to 20 years old. So this was 99, I guess. These things came out 99, 2000, somewhere around there. Which is pretty old in the realm of computing. So hopefully we can get a good comparison here. Maybe there was an option for port snap to avoid the verification. Not seeing it. Hopefully that completes quickly. Yep, no user ports yet. So this is just a base installation here. Do have a machine type of sparc. See what uname gives. and sparc64. So yeah, it must be doing some hashing for it to be taking this amount of time. Well, I'm going to, as I do, pause it here, and I'll come back when port snap has finished verifying the snapshot. I'm back. The snapshot has not been fully verified, but I figured we could take a look at ZFS while this is going. We'll start ZFS because it is not already started. Hopefully it starts. Oh, ZFS is fantastic, and BSD startup configuration is also fantastic. So let's create a pool. So D1 should be the available one, or DA1, I should say. On a Z pool create, not a ZFS create. You rarely create pools, but rather create a lot of data sets, and so that the muscle memory says ZFS. Ooh, we got our Z pool. Let's turn on compression. See about playing around with that a little bit. Do LZ4. Cool. Pretty nice. So we get some console messages here. So we got a little bit of warning because we have not enough memory, but that's to be expected. And this really is taking a little bit of time. Let's see if we can create a random test file. Make a 100 meg test file here on the on this compressed data set. We've used 100. See our compression ratio. We're not getting any compression on there, probably because that's random data. So, truly is random data. Woohoo! Port snap has finished. Let's extract. And we should be to benchmark soon. Again, I'm going to pause this while this goes. I'm going to have some water. Probably should have a coffee, but it's 11:30 at night, and I'll be back in a few minutes. And we're back. Ports have fully extracted, so I guess the right answer here is to build those benchmarks. Let's try dry stone first. And of course we got to build package and dialog. Figured that was going to happen. And that guy's still churning along on the Unix benchmark. Look at top. It's chugging along. I wish packages were available. Leave a comment if you know why I can't get packages. I mean, it looks like the default, where the packages should be here are just not available. So, no, let's see. That's a lot of packages. Let's stop that. If we go back to FreeBSD 10.3, nope. Try 9. Maybe it's available under 9. Yeah. I mean, there are just no packages for Spark. So that make is just chugging along. And we're using 2 CPUs. Fantastic. Of our 2 CPUs, and we're getting the load average up a little bit. And this guy's still going on. I have to build XPAD, or is XPAD included? So again, this is one of the drawbacks of using a very, very modern operating system and modern software. So we're talking, this is FreeBSD 11, maybe a couple months old, a few months old. Again, on nearly 20-year-old hardware. It'd be a little bit faster if I'd thrown in the 900 megahertz CPUs, and that may be something to do afterwards. But again, please comment. I'll probably make a separate video on this with a call for benchmarks, right? And because I think it would be an interesting exercise to benchmark the various systems that I have here, right? So I got, a couple of Intel laptops. Actually 3. We got a i5 520, an i5 something, 4th generation, I think, an i7 4700 series. So I guess 4th gen. We got the AMD FX, and then we've got the SunBlade, the O2 microvax, so kind of a baby microvax. I think it's at like 12 megahertz or something ridiculously low. The Spark station with a few different MBus modules to choose from. So right now we have the quarter meg cache in there, but we also have the 1 meg cache for the 125 megahertz ROS HyperSparks. Obviously can't really effectively benchmark the Commodore gear because it's too slow. I think I may also have some Celerons that might be interesting. And again, once I get Solaris 10 back on the SunBlade here and see if I can get the Sun PCI stuff working on Solaris 10, I think that'll be interesting to be able to do the ZFS backend, hopefully for the Sun PCI data stores, and maybe we can put a real operating system on the Sun PCI So not just something like Windows NT, NT4, or something similar. So this is really, really chugging along. I like this. Fantastic. And again, it takes me a moment to switch between System 5 style and BSD style arguments here. And this is also where, and as I said before, packages would have helped save some time. So wouldn't have to build everything. So one of the ideas I'm kind of bouncing around in my head, and if anyone is still listening at this point in the video, um, you're obviously as, let's say, diplomatically passionate about this sort of stuff as I am. And I'm going to be doing a set of videos here on the Illumos distributions, or pick a few of them, right? Probably going to be Open Indiana. I had a request to talk about Open Indiana. We have Open Indiana, got Triblix, we've got SmartOS. I probably won't do because it's really, it's a hypervisor. There's not a whole lot to it. And probably do OmniOS. So take a look at 3. And what their strengths, weaknesses are, and do a comparison. But one of the things I was realizing, and Triblix sort of gets here, is that it would be cool to do a kind of a Slackware style Illumos distribution, right? So use Slack builds, Slackware packages, so just tarballs, very, very simple. Like I say, Triblix is mostly there, and it's probably not worth the effort, but thought it might be pretty nifty to have a Slackware style spin distribution with Illumos at the kernel, and use both the Illumos userland as well as the GNU userland, because real Unix has some advantages. And this is still going. This is just making the package tool, I think. That's what it looks like. Again, we're here at 9600 baud on the console. Why I didn't do it on my SSH session, I don't know. But hopefully this completes soon. And here we have our result. So that kind of matches up our dry stones. What is that, 312 million or 31.2 million dry stones, wet stones. Let's find out what this is. Take a look at I guess this is the byte Unix bench. Trying to find out what the baseline is here. Okay, so SPARC 20, baseline of 10. So this 2 CPU, if I'm interpreting this correctly, the overall system score is almost 42 times as potent as a SPARC 20. So this I think might be a good benchmark, because we hopefully can recreate that baseline on the SPARCstation 10. Not quite. It should be faster. In some regards, slower in others because we have the SCSI to SD for the disk. Although I may use my SCA to 50-pin adapter and just put in a nice, a 10K SCSI drive. Put say Solaris 8 on there, and it's got more memory, and it would have faster processors, but with um, less cache. So fascinating. So yeah, maybe use the Byte Unix bench here. Oh, sweet. We are done with dry stone. Let's get the dry stone here. $50 million is probably too many to do this for this because it's going to be significantly slower. But hopefully we'll get a useful result. Well, we're over here in Force. Let's build the Unix benchmark here. So that built pretty quickly. I'm going to cancel out of that, and we're just going to do 5 million. We'll do 1 million to start with. So 600,000 dry stones versus, what was our dry stone here? 31 million. That's a pretty big difference, right? Pretty big difference. Now again, clock speed, we're getting close to 5 gigahertz on the FX 8350. I think we're 4.7 gigahertz. And then let's just call it, oh goodness, let's just call it 4.8 and call this 800 on the Sparks. That's 1/6. Still, that's a pretty big difference. So they've obviously, CPUs, who am I telling? Obviously CPUs have increased in the last intervening 20 years. I guess that FX 8350 is not quite that recent. We'll fire off Unix bench here. So I'm going to let this run. I'm going to go have a snack because I feel my blood sugar dropping, and we'll be back. I know this is a long video. Does anyone watch to the end of my videos? Maybe. Probably not this one. It's been kind of a mess. But one of the things about these videos I make, maybe there were a couple in the early days where I would put some edits in. Maybe, I don't know. I used to put a title up at the front, but then I realized everyone can look at the title of the video to find out what the title is. They're all done kind of off the cuff and in one go. And when it's been going for so long like this, I do have to take a little bit of a break and recharge because we've been at this for over an hour. So not the speediest thing, but I'll be interested to see how this comes out. And we are, let's see, pull up a top really quickly. Yeah, it's running dry stone right now. So I will be back with the results, and we can compare them to the modern system here. And I'm back. So we have the results here from the SunBlade 1000. It's only got a final score of 60. So if their baseline of a SPARCstation 20 at 60 megahertz was a 10, this is 6 times as fast. I have a little bit of a wonder about this benchmark, but it looks like it does do some actually useful comparisons. So for instance, 144 times for shell scripts, 100 times for file copy. I mean, just the disk throughput alone should be significantly better. Who knows? Who knows? Maybe there's some extraneous overhead here. There you have it. I know if you gotten to the end here, this was probably a very, very long, kind of boring video. A lot of waiting for the machine to do its things. Um, but FreeBSD 11 on a SunBlade 1000. Uh, Probably next up in the queue is going to be, as I spoke about earlier, I know this is getting kind of repetitive, but is going to be the Illumos roundup. Um, Probably be 3 or 4 Illumos distributions um, there. So, since I'm not going to be keeping this FreeBSD system up, we will do what? And ooh, this is annoying. So, big strike against FreeBSD here. It is not respecting the break from the serial line to drop back to the Open Boot Prom. So sending a break should work. Let's try a halt. Oh, I wasn't even on the console here. That's my own mistake, because it's 3 in the morning. This video's gone on long enough. Nope. Bizarre. Bizarre. Well, I guess that'll be it. Sorry it's such a long video. And hopefully it's been a little disjointed too. Thoughts weren't obviously together. But hopefully the next ones will be better. Thanks for watching.